Call this March 11th regular session of the Oconee County Board of Education to order. First item of business, we need a motion to approve the agenda. Mr. Burgess?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we amend our agenda as presented to this point and add an item to discuss proposed legislation in regards to the Board of Education statutory provisions.
All right, do we have a second?
Can't hear.
Oh, do we have a second?
Second.
Ms. Parrish. Ms. Gaddy, can we put that after business services?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. All right, we need to vote on the motion to amend the agenda. All in favor? Passes 5-0. Next, we need a motion to approve the amended agenda.
So moved.
Mr. Burgess.
Second.
Mr. Hammack, all in favor? Passes 5-0. Next, the board will vote on minutes from our February 12th regular session and our March 4th work session, and we need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Ransom?
Second.
Mr. Hammack, all in favor? Passes 5-0. Next, we have recognitions.
Good evening, board members and Dr. Branch. So we got some special folks to recognize this evening, so if you'll join us up front. As you do so, I'll note this month's art display in the hallway and now on the screen is provided by students from Malcolm Bridge Elementary School, and their instructor is Sarah Skinner. First this evening, the board will recognize the March Pursuit of Excellence Award winner among Student Services employees, Instructional Specialist Kimberly Griffith. She will receive a $50 Visa gift card and a golf umbrella provided by Peach State Federal Credit Union. Chops and Hops and Rosie's Hometown Meats have donated additional gift cards, and a commemorative plaque from Oconee County Schools is being presented. Kim, this is the part where I get to embarrass you just a little bit. From your peers. Kim is the ultimate professional. She has all the knowledge necessary to fulfill her role as an instructional support specialist. But on top of that, she is excellent at working with teachers and families to achieve shared goals for our students. She is humble and does not work for accolades or awards, but simply to inspire and impact everyone she meets. She has mastered the art of being lovingly firm but fair, and models for others the importance of building strong, positive relationships with students and families. She extends the same love, acceptance, and grace to her colleagues, teachers, and community members. She is a true asset to Oconee County Schools as a consummate team player, and she has proven to be a powerful resource for our district. The March Pursuit of Excellence Award winner, Kim Griffith.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Next, the board will recognize the all-state band members from Oconee County Middle School, Josiah Owens, Noah Gardner, and Aiden Jennings. Their director is John Cotton.
Okay.
Let's get y'all back toward the middle there.
In the center.
We'll be the tallest one, right? Up to everybody right here. Mr. Stevens?
Congratulations.
Now the board will recognize the all-state chorus member from Oconee County High School, Charlie Williams. The OCHS director is Katie Williams.
Okay, good.
One more. Congratulations.
Now the board will recognize the combined 4 and 5A state 1-meter diving and 500 freestyle medalists from North Oconee High School. State champions Aiden Sadler and Ivy Buckley, and bronze medalists Ren Drudge and Tessa Steger. The coaches are Nicole O'Mara and Scott Burrell.
Congratulations.
Hey, let's keep you on. Lady, if y'all kind of squeeze back in there. Come this way. That's good, Aiden.
I'll stand on your shoulder.
Barry?
Yeah.
Okay. Squeeze it, just let you go. All right, hold on, Mom and Dads.
Tight.
Now the board will recognize the DECA State First Place finishers from Oconee County High School. Allison Waltman for State Food Marketing, Lillian Fitch, Faith Tucker, and Eileen Brooke with a perfect score in Chapter of Chronicles, and Brady Hawkins and Allison Waltman with a perfect score in School-Based Enterprise. The advisor is Josh Bentley. All right, let's get the front of those. Let's go over just a little bit that way for me. All right, Ms. Bears, trying to help you out there. There we go, looks good, y'all. Okay, right here. All right, hold on for moms and dads. Congratulations. Next, the board will recognize the 2024 Georgia Science and Engineering Fair Pen Design winner from Oconee County Middle School, Hazel Ignatius. The school sponsor is Tabitha Register. Hold on, Mr. Stevens. Now the board will recognize the back-to-back Class 3A Boys State Champion in the 150-pound wrestling class from Oconee County High School, Nathan Bowen. The coaches are Al Yawk and Bradley Sayers.
That's pretty cool.
Right here in the center, folks.
There on that. All right, congratulations.
Go ahead and get in the middle.
Go ahead. Now the board will recognize the state wrestling medalist from North Oconee. In In the girls' 120-pound weight class, back-to-back state champion Vera Spencer. In the girls' 110-pound weight class, third place finisher Bella Mingledorf. In boys 4A, runner-up Anson Young in the 106 weight class. Third place finisher Kyle Maddox in the 120 weight class. And third place finisher Aaron Davis in the 138-pound weight class. The coach is Walker Daniel. All right, let's do it, y'all. All right.
Stay good.
You're not done, Coach.
That's the important part. One more. 1, 2, 3. Go Titans.
That concludes recognition for this evening.
Yes, that's perfect.
Good, good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But if I trust you.
Next on our agenda, we have points of pride, and we want to welcome Ms. Haygood, principal of Mountain Ridge Elementary. Welcome.
Good evening, board members and Dr. Branch. Thank you so much for allowing us the opportunity to come and share some of the wonderful things going on at Malcolm Ridge Elementary with you tonight. I also have with me our assistant principal, Eric Watson, as well as one of our teachers, Brittany Boucher, who is leading the initiative that we're talking about tonight. So today, we would like to talk with you about the house system. And the house system is a school within a school model. And it originated at the Ron Clark School in Atlanta. And so last year we sent a team of teachers there to do some professional development. And then this May we are also sending another teacher. The professional development covers topics such as climate and culture, rigor, and student engagement, as well as how that is all accomplished through what is called the house system. And so at Malcolm Bridge this year, all 3rd through 5th grade students were broken apart into one of 6 houses. And the purpose of this house is to create smaller teams and build relationships and a sense of community. We chose to start and focus on that this year because with the rezones, as you may remember, we received students from multiple schools across the county, and we thought that this would be an excellent way to make sure that everyone was incorporated into the same sense of community. So it allows 3rd through 5th graders to form relationships with each other as well as other staff members. The 6 houses are each from a different country of origin, which ties in with our diversity, and each of the names leads itself to a particular character trait, although all character traits are talked about and taught in all of the houses. So we have altruismo, which is giving in nature, amistad, which is friendship, isabendi for courage, revere, which is idealists who strive to achieve their dreams, salvare, who uplift others, and nucamare as kindness and respect. Students meet in their houses weekly every Friday. We start our meetings at 7:30 and they end at 7:50, so it's that time right before the bell rings through when the bell rings. We advertise you want to get here early and cheer for your house. And then students can earn points within their house so that each week there's house champions, the cafeteria is decorated, and things like that.
So our goal with the house system was to, like Ms. Hagan said, create that sense of community, especially with the rezone and all the new students that we got. So we just wanted them to have people within the school that they can go to and talk to, not just teachers, but other students as well. We also wanted to create those relationships with staff and students. We really focused the last few years on building those relationships, not just with the kids in our class, but the kids in our school, so that everybody feels welcome and a part of our school. We wanted to increase our school pride, just make them proud to be a Malcolm Bridge Eagle, and work together, learn to work together through that character education, and knowing that it's okay to be different and it should be celebrated, and just you have people to support you and they're always there for you. So whether they're in your house or not, you know, there's a good little healthy competition there, but they really do cheer each other on when another house is house of the month or somebody else gets a house point. So we've really seen that community really grow with our kids this year.
So talking about inside of a house, so when students come together with other faculty and staff and they meet inside their house on Friday mornings, a few of the things that we look at here is first the greeting. First the greeting, this gives students an opportunity to learn how to look someone in the eyes, shake their hand, how to greet, how to take a greeting, and go through that process as well. It also helps to focus on learning students' names, learning staff members' names, so if there's ever something they need in the within the school, they're able to go about and find those people and build a relationship with those particular individuals. The house chant, if you come in on a Friday morning between 7:30 and 7:50, you're probably going to hear it 6 times over throughout the building, because they're spaced out. Every house meets in a different classroom or the media center, and you'll hear these chants. This just builds community. It builds that team spirit. Time to share. So a time to share is that time for learning how to listen respectfully. It's also an opportunity for students to learn how to speak publicly and engage publicly with individuals who are also in their house. You'll have 3rd graders who are sharing out with 5th graders in the room. You have 5th graders sharing out and modeling what that looks like for 3rd graders as well. And of course, we have our staff members. All staff members are included in a house as well. The character lesson, as spoken previously before, every house is a different character trait or some type of subject they're building throughout the year or something they're known for. The character lessons are also ingrained in each one. Some of those examples: encouragement, kindness, citizenship, relationship building, responsibility, courage, and just this past month, perseverance. And then spirit, house spirit. As you can see in our pictures here, we have a lot of house spirit. We have spirit days, so it doesn't look like this every Friday. But a lot of times we do have the house spirit. We have opportunities for students to earn points for their house, which just goes on to build for that, at the end of the year, that house champion. And it also builds that community, showing that we're all working together.
So the goal ultimately of implementing the house system was to leave an impact with our students, and it ties in perfectly with our PBIS system, which we have had going on for many years. So the focus of PBIS is positive behavior systems and supports. They're teaching character traits and ingraining what is right in with students. So this ties in perfectly with that. It pumps our 3rd through 5th graders up a little bit more, where our K-2 students have other incentives that they work with, but they two programs go perfectly together. In fact, the picture that you see there is every quarter we have a character trait at the quarter, and a student in K2 from each homeroom, and then 3-5 from each house is nominated by their class or their house system, and we bring their parents in for a character education breakfast to recognize them for the character trait that they have shown. And then as we mentioned earlier, ultimately, this gives every child an adult that they know that they can go to with something. It might not be the teacher who may have to redirect them or has seen them struggle academically. It pairs them with another teacher that can simply know them as a person at Malcolm Bridge Elementary and can be a safe person to go to so that everyone can have that safe relationship.
So enough of us telling you what the house system is. Here's a few things our students have to say.
It doesn't change my year because I actually think that I'm part of a group and I have people and teachers that look after me, and it's really fun.
It's really changed my year, but it's just like you learn about so many different characters and how you can really make a change in your community. I really think that's really changed like me and so many others this year.
And we also learned our character traits of our house, like uplifting and being kind and courageous, and learning how to be brave and not to help me.
Like the house systems have changed my year because being in a house kind of brings everybody together and makes us want to be a better student.
I feel my year better in the house because I've been like have more friends.
So for our house system, every 3rd through 5th grader was sorted into a house. We had a giant assembly at the beginning of the year to announce they had no idea what house they were going to be in. Every kid got an envelope, and we did the same thing for the staff. So we wanted to have a little fun with y'all tonight, and we went ahead and sorted all of you into your houses. So you're officially part of our Malcolm Bridge houses. So don't open them yet. You have to open them all at the same time. Yes, come on Friday to
And we did hold off on the confetti for y'all.
Yes.
The kids got to experience
the kids got
confetti.
confetti. All right, so on the count of 3, you can open your envelopes. 1, 2, 3.
All right, I'm ready.
And then you have to scream and cheer
Yeah,
and
yeah.
And y'all might need to reevaluate.
House of Givers.
I was just disappointed. I have to wear yellow now, and you know.
And we purposely didn't do the orange house.
It's given me an opportunity to learn to wear purple. Well, thank you for the opportunity. If you have any questions, we welcome those now.
How did y'all sort all the kids and the staff?
My partner in crime, Emily Ann, who couldn't be here tonight, we met this summer multiple times, and we took all of the rosters and just sorted kids, made the invitations, stuffed the envelopes. Their names were printed on the envelope, so we made a big deal out of it because we wanted to buy in from the kids and from the staff. So the staff and y'all got the actual
Wax
seal. We were going to do it for the kids, but they just got stickers. It's been ambitious to do wax seals.
So how many are in a house?
There's around
Roughly 50 to 60.
With about
each house.
6 to 7 adults in the room.
And as more kids
Move in, we add them
So
to
this
the
year's
house.
2nd graders going into 3rd grade in August from the first day of school, they'll come into the gym and be sorted into a house as well.
Welcomed by their house.
So yeah, you
And they stay in the house.
Yes,
Yeah.
so you're in that house until you leave 5th grade.
Okay.
You might not ever leave 5th grade. But yeah, so.
And does any other school do it? Not currently?
I think Dove Creek is doing a model of it as well. They do 4th and 5th grade.
I love the idea of having a different way that kids from different grades can interact together. That's really cool.
It is nice.
And they earn their points as a team, so it's not, what do I get?
Yeah.
How to make
Right.
good, responsible choices, so we liked that as well.
Thank you.
So,
Next on our agenda is presentations and discussions. We have business services.
Ms. Argo, before Ms. Hankins comes up, if we could, ask Justin Kofer under this arena to come back from last week. I know you had a few questions about the salary enhancements. Appreciate the board going ahead and approving those, but wanted to come back and answer those questions under business services. So, Justin.
Sure.
Before we get started, I want to share with the board that we appreciate, of course, your support last week. I had the opportunity with Suzanne Graves as well as Caitlin Brand to go out and do what we call the World Tour. On Tuesday, we went around to all 12 schools and met with the school food nutrition staff at each of those schools to share with them the good news and make sure that they understood how that would look going forward for the remainder of the year. And each and every one of them was extremely appreciative and wanted me to share that with you all. So we're excited about that. In addition, our partner, ESS, has been able to share the updated pay scale as well, and they've already received several new applicants, and I believe they sent over 5 resumes today to Caitlin for us to start looking at for school food nutrition. So we're excited about that. Mr. Burgess, I believe you asked the question about how many school food nutrition staff we have, and we have a total of 46 in the district.
So the vacancy rate we have now would equate to how many?
So the vacancy rate of 15% is 7 out of 46.
You
That's
almost filled that today, didn't you?
Yeah, almost. And that's the 15% obviously is for the district. Like to keep in mind that our school food nutrition staff at each school is 3 to 4 people. So one person missing from that school is 33% or 25% of their staff. So that's pretty significant.
Oh, yeah.
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, Ms. Hankins.
Thank you.
Likewise, I wanted to answer a question from last month's board meeting regarding the 2% fee on the property tax calculation. And the answer is yes, the budget is shown net of that fee. The 2% fee began with this fiscal year 2024, and after previously being 2.5% in previous years. The budget is reflecting that. Tonight, Business Services has 8 items of information for tonight's board meeting, beginning with the first item of information, which is the February cash balance report. The next item of information is February's vendor payments report. And the third item of information is the business budget report for revenue and expenditures. The fourth item of information is the February loss collections report, showing a $251,000 decrease over the previous month due to the post-holiday slowdown, and less than 1% decrease over February of the previous year, with a rolling average of about 12%. Next, we have ELOS 5 revenue and expenditure report as of February, and we also have ELOS 6 revenue and expenditure report as of February. And now we have the federal funds report as of February. And finally, tonight we have the total benefit statement for the year ending December 2023. This statement is designed to give employees a breakdown of their total compensation package, especially the value of employer benefits received each year. And it's given at a point in time as of December 2023, and it shows compensation as well as the value of all the benefits selected per employee. And this concludes my business services report, unless there are any questions.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on our agenda is proposed legislation. Mr. Burgess.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As all of y'all are aware, for a number of months, we've had some informal conversations about two or three different types of statutory changes, operational changes that we might want to give more consideration to that govern the way the Board of Education works in Oconee County. During that time, you know, we've done a good bit of research on how those work, how they came to be, and how they operate within the current confines of our board. And a couple of months ago, we approached the local delegation about their willingness to take two of these changes and put them into a piece of local legislation and introduce them in the General Assembly. Both of these changes would require a statutory change in state law to the way we operate. as you know from conversations we've had in the past, one of our governing statutes is a 1964 law that was passed and approved by the voters in Oconee County in 1964 that establishes how we fill vacancies when those vacancies occur on the board. Like I said, that law was put in place in 1964, and since 1964, the law has basically said that when a vacancy occurs on the board will, by a majority vote, pick a replacement and approve that replacement, and that person would serve for the balance of that term. We've talked among ourselves about, is that still the best way to fill vacancies some 30 plus years later, since '64. And so one of the proposals that we've made to the local delegation is to change the statute in terms of the way we fill those vacancies to adopt the current state law that governs how boards of education are filled around the state. As you'll recall from the research that was done for us on that, that basically works like this. A vacancy occurs on a board of education. The board of the members of that board then fill that vacancy by a majority vote. But the difference is that person then stands for election for the balance of that term at the next general election. Whereas today, when we fill a vacancy, that person serves for the balance of that term without having to stand for election until that term is up. And I'll give you my personal experience as an example. When I came on the board, a gentleman had just been elected, and a couple of months into his term decided that for a variety of reasons he couldn't continue to serve. So he stepped down, I think, in February, and in April I was appointed by the Board of Education almost 11 years ago to fill that vacancy. But according to that 1964 law, I served out the balance of that term and did not run for election for over 3.5 years. This change that we're proposing in this piece of legislation would alter that so that I would have had to run when I was appointed in April of that year. I would have had to run about 16 months later in the next general election, and then have to run again when the balance of that term was expired in 4 years. And that's the way the current statute governs all of the boards of education around the state, except for those that have local legislation that defines a different process. And since 1964, our local legislation defined a different process, which I just described, which is the way I came on the board and served my first 3.5 years. So this change would change that and adopt that statutory format in the current legislation going forward. The second change is to the way the chair is appointed. In that same 1964 law, it set up the process where we have 5 posts, and one of those posts is a chairman, chairwoman in this case, and is elected as chair as long as they hold that post and continue to serve in that term. We've looked at the research around the state and found that that is very different than the way most boards of education operate today. In fact, 82% of the current boards of education around the state elect their own chair from the members of the board. I don't know about your experience, but when I started thinking more about this over the last several months, I thought about all the boards in my career that I've both worked for and served on. I couldn't think of a single one that actually had, that did not appoint its own chair from among the members of that board, including my last board that I technically worked for, which was the Board of Regents for the University System of Georgia. Those members are appointed by the governor, but then they, among themselves, elect the chair to serve for the term of chair on the Board of Regents. So the second change that we're talking about making here is to change the current statute so that going forward, the board would elect from among its 5 members the chair to serve the term as determined by the board. And that would be consistent with the 82% of the boards around the state that currently do that now. There are a lot of reasons why that's done that way. It's a best practice model that's obviously followed by a lot of boards, both public and private. And I think it also would give this board and future boards the opportunity to appoint someone from among its membership that has the skills and the background and the perspective to best lead the board as chair in those duties. Now we all know Ms. Argo rules with an iron fist. But technically her powers are no more than all of our powers. We all vote on every motion, including the chair. The chair, since in the years I've been here, has generally performed the function of presiding over our meetings and working very closely with the superintendent to create an agenda for each of our meetings. But beyond that, there are no specific delineated powers that create more authority in the position of chair than any of the other 4 of us. But I think a change like this would allow us to adopt a best practice that would allow the board to govern itself much more effectively in the future, and at the same time potentially allow other members of the board from time to time, when the governance of the board dictates, to serve as chair as well, and gain that experience and knowledge and perspective. Those 2 changes are the two changes that we have researched and that we have debated and discussed informally to the point where we approached our local delegation about introducing that. Sunday night, I got a draft from Representative Wiedauer that put all of that in the form of a bill. I don't know I don't think, unless one of y'all knows differently, I don't think that has actually been technically introduced yet, but it's my understanding that that would be introduced this week, following on the ad that was put in the paper last week that kind of starts the clock on that process, which is why that ad was run, because the intention was to this week introduce that legislation. But it was not until yesterday that we actually got a real draft of those 2 changes that we could review and discuss and present tonight and talk about, and in the context of what they were and why we felt like they were appropriate changes. Both of these modifications would be put on the ballot in November in the general election for the voters to consider and approve. And only if they're approved by the voters in the county, just like they approved the changes in '64 that we've been operating under ever since. So the voters this would still have to go to the voters and be considered and approved or not approved under which terms we operate the way we currently do. I've given Jason a copy of the draft, so he's got for our records internally a copy of this draft. Hopefully we'll see a final bill in the next few days or so when that's introduced. But those are the 2 changes that we've discussed, we've researched, and we've asked the General Assembly, our local delegation, to consider putting forward, and I believe we have a positive response that they will in fact do that, and it should be this bill should be introduced in short order. I'll stop right there and either try to answer any questions, or somebody else may have something else they need to add or say about those 2 changes.
I've got a couple of questions. Just for clarification, the first part of the bill where when someone resigns and we are appointing them, that person then would not hold office without an election for, at the most, it would be right under 2 years. Also, on the chair, would that be voted on annually?
it would determine what, the board would determine what the term of the chair is.
Okay.
Future boards, if these two changes are approved, they go into effect January 1st, 2025.
Okay.
So the board at that point would have to decide what term of office they want to create for the chair, and then approve by majority vote a person to serve as chair. That could be 1 year, it could be 6 months, it could be 2 years. It's whatever the board determines is the most appropriate term for the chair to be.
Okay. And last, my last question. Why would this not be on the ballot when the primary comes up? Why are we waiting until November?
Good question. Election law requires that changes, initiatives that are put on a ballot have to be advertised by the elections office 90 days in advance. We're in March, the primary is less than 90 days away, and so when the bill passes, and they still got 2 weeks to go. In my experience, when I was working at the Capitol for years and years, was most local legislation passes, and this would be local legislation, and there are probably hundreds of them at that point. Most local legislation is dealt with by the General Assembly in the very last few days of the session, just because of the press of business on a whole lot of other matters. So my point was, it's not likely, even if it's introduced today or tomorrow, it's not likely it would be passed for several days, gets you into the latter part of March, which would run afoul of the 90-day timeline that the elections office has. So the bill is written so that if it passes, it would be on the general election ballot, which is well more than 90 days advance notice for the elections office to have that and to put it on the general election ballot.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have comments or questions?
I've got just a couple to clarify. So, talking about the chair term that Kim mentioned, so that term, of course, it's probably stating the obvious, could not extend the term of that post.
That's right. Obviously, the chair couldn't be someone who's not elected to the board.
Correct. I just want to make sure that we're clear in that, because since we're saying it was any term out there, I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
Within reason.
Yeah.
Within the terms of someone being elected.
And then, of course, in the first part, so we're talking to we're asking the voters to leave the 1964 statute and adopt current statutes, and that's the basis of the first part of that legislation.
Anyone else?
This would keep our current staggers of about 3 posts turning over, then 2 posts turning over.
Yeah.
Would mess up.
It would not change the fact, you're right, the fact that we have 3 up for election this year and 2, and it keeps that staggered term and keeps the numbers of those the same. It just, the change would be post 1 is post 1, and the board would then have to elect one as chair.
I would like to speak to the part about the chair also. I feel strongly that the chair should be someone with some experience that has a relationship with the superintendent. In the past, of course, Mr. Odom was elected chair without having been on the board, but having been a principal, he had that relationship, I think, already. And we all know that once you come on the board, there's a learning curve there. We have presentations from each of our assistant superintendents, CEO, CFO, and then you have your training at the by GSBA. It's a little overwhelming to start with, and it takes you a few months to sort of get into the flow. So I do feel strongly that it is probably best that it comes from within. And I know that annually we pick our vice chair and our legislative liaison, and obviously in January, if this passes, that would be when the chair would be selected. Mr. Burgess, answer this. If it doesn't pass, what happens?
If it doesn't pass, then we continue to operate under the 1964 law, just like we're doing today.
Okay. Anyone else?
I'd just like to reiterate, I'm glad you mentioned that, because there's no change in the chair's role, and that, my experience has been, and you can articulate this, that it doesn't have any bells and whistles, it's just more work, and more time invested, so.
Yes.
Yeah, but that role will not change at all, I mean, just the way we're electing it, or coming about who is the teacher is the only change.
Yeah, I think over time, obviously, more and more boards around the state have found that to be more business-like and a more effective way to operate, i.e., it's why a lot of boards, 82%, have gone to that method as opposed to the local changes that like we operate. So there's something to be said for the fact that the vast majority of boards in the state have already decided that that's the best means to operate.
Mr. Burgess, do we have a House bill number for this?
We do not. What we have is a draft of the bill, and it will not be assigned a number until it is actually dropped into what they call the hopper in the legislature. And at that point, the clerk will assign a bill number to it.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, I'd like to thank you for all the work that you put into this, and it's appreciated.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have communications to the board. Do we have anyone? Mr. Coulter.
Yes, ma'am, we have 2 citizens signed up for this evening. Before they come up, I'll read this. The board allows 3 minutes for those who sign up at the meeting. You must be a current resident of Oconee County to address the board. Please state your name, address, and topic. The board requests that you refrain from making any disparaging remarks about school system personnel. Generally, there will be no response to comments or questions posed by citizens at the meeting. All comments and questions will be received and taken under advisement by the board. However, any member of the board shall be free to respond and make public comments if he or she elects to do so. Our first speaker is Pamela Hendricks.
Welcome, Ms. Hendricks.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Pam Hendricks. I live at 1151 Thornwood Drive. And as I thought about what I wanted to say this evening, I thought I'd quote a little Shakespeare for everyone. Something is rotten in the state of Denmark. I want to kind of talk about 2 topics. Since I've been here, I was not able to be here last month, there have been 2 new upper administrative staff added. And I've been here at every meeting. I attended the school board retreat. I've never heard a word about adding upper administration. I'm presuming it was done in executive session, of which y'all go into executive session just about every month. I thought executive session was supposed to be exclusively employment, real estate, and litigation. I didn't think it could be creating new positions. And so since I've been here, the first one was a new director of elementary education, and the second one was a new director of student services. And I look at those and I presume the new director of student services is going to commence making somewhere north of $124,972, and that's forever. And while I've been in here pointing out that our growth has really slowed, we didn't have new students. Our enrollment has not increased, so I'm wondering, why do we need 2 new upper administration? The second thing is, I'm just wondering if it's to fill this new Taj Mahal school board building that we're building. We build a big building, do we just need to put more people in it? So I'm pretty frustrated. I tell y'all I'm here as a taxpayer, and I'm here because I feel like the budget of Oconee County School System is just ballooning out of control, and this is a further indication of that. Well then, the second thing I want to mention is that we seem to be having a very hard time keeping a CFO, a Chief Financial Officer. They seem, we had longtime Randy Morrison, but then we've had someone that served 5 years, then 3 years, then 2 years, and I'm sorry to see that Ms. LaWanda Hankins has resigned, and she's been here 5 months, from December to May 1st will be her term. And I'm just trying to understand why we can't keep a chief financial officer. And there was a weird thing that happened, I just want y'all to remember, when Mr. Smith introduced Ms. Hankins, he said something very odd that I just have never been able to forget. He said, "Board, we've found a good person to take this position. She can wear the wizard hat well." I wrote it in my notes. It was such a weird thing to say. Well, just think about that, please. Thank you.
Ms. Hendricks, the two positions that were filled for upper admin were just rehires for retirements. Those positions were already existing, they're not
Right, they're not new
Well,
positions.
y'all were advertising them as new.
new hires.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Next citizen is Susanna Heimel.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, thank you for hearing me, I appreciate it. I'm Susanna Heimel. I live in Watkinsville, Georgia. My address is on file, I don't want to say it publicly. I'm here speaking about the public notice listed in the Enterprise on March 7th, 2024. The notice states that you are introducing a bill to reconstitute the Board of Education and for other purposes. I appreciate you discussing that, and I will ask, will you make the draft of the bill public? To the public. Is that going to be out? That would be nice, because the fact that it was addressed, it was discussed in private is upsetting to many of us. Next, this notice of intent to introduce legislation is certainly official business, requiring a public meeting. In an election year, I feel quite certain your constituents would be interested in any legislation you are introducing. Remember, y'all ran on transparency. In addition, this is probably why there are 9 candidates for the 3 Board of Education positions that are coming due this year. I only hope and pray that our community members see, well, what I called before was an obvious violation of open records, apparently it's not, and rethink your positions. The Board of Education is supposed to keep a watchful eye on our school system. Apparently, or I question if you have other thoughts for the intent of the Board. Thank you.
That concludes communications to the board.
Thank you, Mr. Coffey. Okay, next on the agenda are action items. Dr. Branch.
Yes, ma'am. First up, we have a benchmark workshop in our social studies science curriculum that you heard presented last week. The board did have a few questions, so I've asked Dr. Stansel to return to the podium and discuss those questions that you had.
Good evening, board members. Dr. Branch. I wanted to take a moment to answer the questions that you guys had from last week's Board of Education meeting. The first question that was asked was, what is the total for benchmark workshop? The total cost is $775,667, which will cover a 6-year contract and be paid up front in fiscal year 25. The savings that we receive by paying that lump sum up front for 6 years for that particular resource is $383,450. The second question that was asked at last week's meeting was, what is the total for our new 6 through 12 social studies and science resources? The total cost for FY25 is $595,939. That's also for a 6-year contract, and the savings that we will receive by purchasing those up front, that total is $660,975. I also wanted to clarify that tonight you are only voting on placing these resources on the table for review. If approved, then next month we will be coming to you to approve the purchase of these resources. If that is approved, then you will see these items listed in our budget. Any further questions?
Thank you.
Okay, board members, if it's acceptable, we can take A and B as one item, and recommendation would be to approve placing those items on the table to our next board meeting.
So moved.
Mr. Ransom?
Second.
Mr. Hammack, all in favor? Passes 5-0.
Okay, a less exciting item, but nonetheless necessary, technology surplus. You've heard a report from Dr. White about the surplus, and we would recommend the board approve the technology surplus list as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Hammack, Mr. Burgess, all in favor? Passes 5-0.
Okay, up next we have district-wide generators. We did have a few questions on that, so I've asked Dr. LaDuff to come forward and answer those questions.
Good evening, everyone. As Dr. Branch mentioned, we had a few questions from the board regarding the generators. One was how many generators are we purchasing? So the answer to that question is 9 generators that will be placed across the district. Those will be placed at Column Ferry Elementary School, High Shoals Elementary School, Oconee County Elementary School, Rocky Branch Elementary School, Malcolm Bridge Middle School, Oconee Middle School, and Oconee High School and North Oconee High School, as well as the Business Services Office to support that building, which houses our servers. Also had another question about the power source of those generators. Of those 9, 7 of them will be powered by natural gas and 2 of them will be powered by diesel. I believe that was all the questions we have, unless you guys have another. Yes, sir.
Do we lose, my wife works at High Shoals, so I kind of already know the answer. We lose power a good bit at High Shoals. Is that pretty typical for other areas when we have storms?
Yes, sir. Some more prevalent than others, but High Shoals and Column Ferry are probably our most likely places we'll lose it first.
Thank you.
Okay, board members, you have heard that information presented, and so we would recommend the district-wide generators be approved, provided by qualified electrical contractors with a bid of $1,170,075.
So moved.
Mr. Burgess?
Second.
Mr. Ransom, all in favor? Passes 5-0. We do have a need to go into executive session and need a motion to do so.
I'll make a motion that the board will adjourn to executive session to discuss or deliberate upon personnel matters as described on the affidavit to be attached to the minutes.
We need a second.
Second.
Mr. Hammack, all in favor? Passes 5-0.
Okay, board members, we'll take a few minutes to clear the room and return for executive session.